The first time Ethan Miller saw Emily Carter, she was standing alone in the rain. It was a cold Thursday afternoon in Willow Creek, Ohio. The sky had been gray all day, and by 5 o'clock, the rain was coming down hard enough to flood the sidewalks. Ethan was 23 years old, tired from work, and carrying a small grocery bag in one hand. He wasn't looking for anyone. He wasn't thinking about love. He was thinking about getting home. Then he saw her. A young woman was standing outside a small coffee shop, struggling with a broken umbrella. The wind kept turning it inside out. Her hair was getting soaked, and she was trying to protect a folder pressed against her chest. Ethan slowed down. He could have kept walking. Instead, he stopped. "Hey." The woman looked at him. "Yeah." Ethan took off his jacket. "Put this over your head." She stared at the jacket. "No, you'll get soaked." Ethan glanced at the rain. "I already am." She laughed softly. It was the first time Ethan heard her laugh. She took the jacket. "Thank you." "No problem." He started walking away. After a few steps, he looked back. She was still standing there, but now she was looking at him. Ethan quickly turned around. He didn't know why he had looked back. Maybe it was her smile. Maybe it was the strange feeling that this moment mattered. Or maybe it was nothing. The next morning, Ethan told himself he had forgotten about her. By lunchtime, he was thinking about her again. He remembered the coffee shop. He remembered her face. He remembered the way she had smiled when he said, "I already am." That afternoon, Ethan found himself driving past the same coffee shop. He slowed down. He almost parked. Almost. But then he shook his head. "What am I doing?" He drove home. 2 days later, he came back. This time he parked. Ethan walked through the coffee shop door. He told himself he was there for coffee. But then he looked toward the window. She was there. The girl from the rain. She was sitting alone with a book in front of her. Ethan stopped. She looked up. Their eyes met. And neither of them knew that this tiny coffee shop in Willow Creek was about to become the beginning of a story that would last. For decades. Ethan took a breath. Then he walked toward her. Ethan told himself he had returned to the coffee shop because he wanted coffee. That wasn't the truth. He had returned because of her. The girl from the rain was sitting near the window, reading a book. Or at least pretending to. Ethan walked to the counter and ordered a medium coffee. Then he looked around. Almost every table was occupied, except the chair across from her. He stood there for a moment, wondering whether sitting down would be too obvious. Before he could decide, she looked up. "You can sit here." Ethan smiled. "Are you sure?" She nodded. "I don't bite." He laughed. "Good to know." Ethan sat down. For the first few seconds, neither of them said anything. Then she looked at him. "You're the jacket guy." Ethan laughed. "That's my name now? I don't know your real name." "Ethan." She closed her book. "Emily." That was the first time Ethan heard her name. Emily. He repeated it silently in his head. They started talking. Nothing important at first. The weather. The coffee. The neighborhood. Work. Emily told him she lived nearby. Ethan told her he worked not far from downtown. Then they started laughing. Emily discovered that Ethan put sugar in his coffee. "Too much sugar." "That is terrible," she said. "You haven't even tasted it." "I don't need to." "You're judging me." "Absolutely." Ethan smiled. For the first time in a long time, he forgot to check the time. They talked for almost 2 hours. Eventually, Emily looked at the clock. "I should probably go." Ethan nodded. "Yeah, me too." Neither moved. Emily smiled. "You know, you don't have to keep pretending you came here for coffee." Ethan froze. "What?" She laughed. "You came here looking for me." He looked down at his cup, then back at her. "Maybe." Emily smiled. "Maybe. I wasn't sure you'd be here. But you came anyway." Yeah. There was something different about that moment. They weren't strangers anymore. Ethan stood. "I'll see you around." Emily looked at him. "Maybe." He walked toward the door. Before leaving, he turned around. Emily was watching him. Their eyes met again. This time, neither looked away. Ethan stepped outside. Emily opened her book again. But she didn't read a single word. She kept thinking about the man who had given her his jacket in the rain. And Ethan kept thinking about the woman who had just learned his name. Neither of them knew where this was going. But both of them wanted to find out. 3 days later, Ethan's phone buzzed. It was a text from an unfamiliar number. "Are you still coming tonight?" Ethan stared at the screen. He didn't recognize the number. He typed, "Who is this?" A few seconds later, the answer came. "Emily." Ethan smiled. Then another message arrived. "Wait, you're not Sarah." Ethan laughed. Apparently, Emily had entered one wrong number. "Sorry, wrong number." That should have been the end of the conversation. But Ethan typed, "So I'm not Sarah?" Emily replied, "No, good. I was worried." She sent a laughing emoji. Then, "I'm really sorry." Ethan smiled. "You're forgiven." "For what?" "For texting the wrong person." "You're weird. You started it." Emily laughed again. One message became 5. 5 became 20. Soon they were talking about everything. Emily told Ethan about her favorite movies. He admitted he rarely watched movies. She couldn't believe it. "You're missing half your life." "That's dramatic." "It's true." They talked about family, work, places they wanted to visit. Ethan told her he liked quiet places. Emily told him she wanted to see the ocean again. The conversation lasted almost 2 hours. Finally, Emily wrote, "I should probably go to bed." "Probably." "Good night, Ethan." "Good night, Emily." Ethan put his phone down, then picked it up again. He smiled at himself. He was 23 years old. He knew better than to get excited about a wrong number. But he was excited. The next morning, he checked his phone before getting out of bed. There was no message. He told himself it didn't matter. At 10:17 a.m., his phone buzzed. "Coffee." Ethan stared at the screen. He immediately replied, "Today." Emily answered, "Unless you have something better to do." Ethan smiled. "I don't." That afternoon, Ethan arrived at the coffee shop. He opened the door, then stopped. Emily was already sitting at a table, but she wasn't alone. A man was sitting across from her. Ethan couldn't tell who he was. Emily looked up. Their eyes met. She smiled. Then the man beside her turned around and looked directly at Ethan. Ethan suddenly wondered whether coming inside had been a mistake. Ethan stood near the coffee shop door. The man sitting across from Emily looked older than them. Emily immediately noticed Ethan's expression. "Ethan." He walked over. "Hey." The man stood. Emily smiled. "This is my brother, Daniel." Ethan relaxed. "Oh." Daniel smiled. "So you're Ethan." Ethan shook his hand. "Nice to meet you." Daniel looked at Emily. "This is the jacket guy?" Emily sighed. "Daniel." Ethan laughed. "Apparently that's what I'm known for." Daniel sat back down. Ethan joined them. For the next hour, Daniel asked Ethan questions. Where did he work? How long had he lived in Willow Creek? What did he want to do with his life? Ethan answered honestly. He wasn't rich. He didn't have a perfect career. He didn't have everything figured out. But he wanted stability. He wanted to work hard. Someday he wanted a house, a family, a quiet life. Daniel listened carefully. Then he nodded. Emily looked embarrassed. "Sorry." Ethan smiled. "He's protective. He's suspicious." "Same thing." Emily laughed. Eventually, Daniel stood. "I'll let you two talk." After he left, Emily looked at Ethan. "I'm sorry." "For what?" "My brother. He seems okay. He interrogated you." "Maybe I passed." Emily smiled. There was a brief silence. Then Ethan looked at her. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Why did you ask me to come?" Emily looked down. "Because I wanted to see you." Ethan smiled. "Really?" She nodded. "I like talking to you." "I like talking to you too." Emily looked at him. "That's why I asked." The words were simple, but Ethan felt something shift inside him. This wasn't an accident anymore. Emily had chosen to see him, and he had chosen to come. They walked outside together. At her car, Emily stopped. "See you tomorrow?" Ethan smiled. "Tomorrow." She got into her car. Before closing the door, she looked at him. "Ethan." "Yeah. I'm glad you came." He smiled. "So am I." Emily drove away. Ethan stood there for a moment. He watched her disappear down the street. And for the first time, he wondered if this could become something more. Ethan already knew her name, Emily Carter. But every day, he learned something new about her. She loved bookstores. She hated being late. She always ordered the same coffee. She called her mother every Sunday. And whenever she was nervous, she played with the ring on her right hand. Ethan noticed everything. He just didn't tell her. One Saturday afternoon, they walked through downtown Willow Creek. Emily suddenly stopped. "Wait." "What?" She pointed toward a bookstore. 5 minutes. Ethan laughed. "You said that last time. I mean it this time." "You said that too." She walked inside. Ethan followed. Emily disappeared between the shelves. A few minutes later, she came back holding a book. "You bought another one?" "Yes." "You haven't finished the last one." "I will." "When?" "Eventually." Ethan shook his head. "You're impossible." Emily smiled. "You remembered." "Remembered what?" "The last book." Ethan shrugged. "I remember things." Apparently. They continued walking. Eventually, they reached a small park. They sat on a bench. For a while, they watched people walk by. Then Emily asked, "Why are you always so quiet?" Ethan looked at her. "I don't know." "You do." He thought for a moment. "My dad was like that." "What do you mean?" "He believed a man should work hard, take care of his family, and not complain." Emily listened. "Do you agree with him?" "Mostly." "Mostly." Ethan smiled. "Sometimes people need to talk." Emily looked at him. "That's what I think." He nodded. Neither spoke for a few seconds. Then Ethan's phone buzzed. He looked at it. It was a message from his father. Ethan's expression changed. Emily noticed. "Everything okay?" "Yeah." But his voice didn't sound convincing. Emily didn't push. Later that night, Ethan drove her home. She opened the door. "Good night." "Good night." She stepped out, then turned around. "Ethan." "Yeah. Thanks for today." He smiled. "Anytime." She closed the door. Ethan waited until she entered the house. Then he drove away. Emily stood behind the window, watching his car disappear. She smiled. She didn't know exactly what Ethan felt, but she was starting to suspect. And maybe she was beginning to feel the same thing. That night, Ethan and Emily sat in his car outside her house. The radio played quietly. Neither wanted to leave. They had spent hours talking. Eventually, Emily looked at him. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "What are you afraid of?" Ethan laughed. "That came out of nowhere." "Answer." He looked through the windshield. "Failing." "Failing at what?" "My family." Emily frowned. "You don't even have a family yet." "I know." "Then why are you afraid?" Ethan thought for a moment. "Because someday I will." Emily studied his face. "You think that far ahead?" "Sometimes." "What do you want?" Ethan looked at her. "A house." She smiled. "That's your dream." "A quiet street. A garage. A kitchen. And kids someday." Emily smiled. "And?" Ethan hesitated. "Someone waiting for me when I come home." Emily became quiet. She looked down at her hands. "What if that person needs more than a house?" Ethan looked at her. "What do you mean?" "She might need you to talk to her." Ethan smiled nervously. "I can learn." Emily looked at him. "Can you?" "I think so." She smiled. "I hope you can." The conversation stayed with Ethan. The next day, they met again. Emily noticed something different. He seemed more open. He told her about his father, his mother, his childhood, things he rarely talked about. Emily listened. She didn't interrupt. She didn't judge. She simply listened. When they left the coffee shop, Ethan walked her to her car. Emily stopped beside the door. "You know something?" "What?" "You're not as quiet as I thought." Ethan smiled. "Don't tell anyone." She laughed. Then she looked into his eyes. "I won't." For a moment, they stood there. Neither wanted to move. Ethan wanted to say something. He didn't know what. Emily seemed to be waiting. Finally, Ethan smiled. "Good night." Emily smiled back. "Good night." She drove away. Ethan watched her car disappear. He didn't know it yet, but Emily had just become the first person in years who made him feel safe enough to speak. And that would matter more than either of them could understand. By now, Ethan and Emily had developed a routine. Coffee before work, walks after dinner, long conversations in his car. They still hadn't called it dating. Neither wanted to be the first. One evening, Ethan entered the coffee shop. Emily was already sitting at their usual table. He walked over. "Is this seat taken?" Emily smiled. "You've been sitting there for 3 weeks." "I'm asking anyway." "Sit down." Ethan sat across from her. They talked about their day. Then Emily asked, "Do you ever think about the future?" Ethan smiled. "Sometimes." "What does it look like?" "A house." She laughed. "Still the house." "Definitely." "What else?" "Kids." "And?" Ethan looked at her. He didn't answer. Emily noticed. "What?" "Nothing." "You're hiding something." "I'm not." "You are." Ethan smiled. "Maybe." Emily looked down at her coffee. Then she asked, "Why don't you date much?" Ethan thought about it. "I haven't met the right person." Emily's heart skipped. She looked away. "What does the right person look like?" Ethan smiled. "I don't know. You just said you haven't met her." "Maybe I have." Emily looked at him. Their eyes met. Neither said anything. Later, Ethan walked Emily to her car. She turned toward him. "Good night." "Good night." She opened the door, then stopped. "Ethan." "Yeah." "I'm glad you came back to the coffee shop." He smiled. "Me too." She got inside. Ethan waited. When she drove away, his phone rang. It was his mother. "Where are you?" Ethan looked toward Emily's car. "I'm with someone." His mother laughed. "Someone?" Ethan smiled. "Yeah." He didn't explain. He didn't need to. For the first time, he had someone he wanted to tell his mother about. And that frightened him almost as much as it excited him. Because Ethan was beginning to understand something. Emily wasn't just someone he enjoyed spending time with. She was becoming someone he didn't want to lose. Emily knew Ethan was hiding something. She just didn't know what. One afternoon, she called him. No answer. She called again. Still nothing. Ethan always answered. Hours later, her phone rang. Sorry. Where were you? At the hospital. Emily's voice immediately changed. What happened? My dad had a doctor's appointment. Is he okay? He will be. Ethan tried to sound calm. Emily could hear the strain in his voice. Do you want me to come? No, Ethan. I said I'm okay. There was silence. Emily finally said, okay. The next morning, Ethan came to the coffee shop. Emily was already there. He sat across from her. I should have told you. Told me what? My dad has been having health problems. Emily reached across the table. You don't have to handle everything alone. Ethan looked at her hand. My father always handled things himself. That doesn't mean you have to. He taught me that complaining makes you weak. Emily shook her head. I'm not asking you to complain. Then what? To let someone care about you. Ethan looked at her. He didn't know what to say, so he simply nodded. Okay. Emily squeezed his hand. For a moment, Ethan didn't pull away. That small gesture meant more to him than he could explain. Later that day, Ethan walked her home. Before she went inside, he stopped her. Emily. Yeah. Thank you. For what? For not pushing. She smiled. I'll listen when you're ready. Ethan nodded. That night, Emily received a text. There's something else I need to tell you. She immediately replied. What? No answer. 10 minutes passed. Then 30. An hour. Finally, another message appeared. Tomorrow. I promise. Emily stared at the screen. She didn't know what Ethan was going to tell her. But she knew one thing. Whatever it was, he trusted her enough to finally say it. And that meant more than she realized. Emily had started noticing things. The way Ethan remembered her coffee order. The way he always walked on the street side. The way he waited until she entered her house before driving away. The way his voice changed when he said her name. She noticed everything, but she wasn't sure what it meant. That Friday, they went to a small diner in downtown Willow Creek. Nothing fancy. Burgers. Fries. Milkshakes. Ethan was telling her a story about work. Emily started laughing. What? You? What about me? You're actually funny. I've always been funny. No. You're accidentally funny. Ethan laughed. Then Emily became quiet. What? She looked at him. You like me. Ethan stopped. What? You heard me. He smiled nervously. Is that a problem? Emily shook her head. No, then why did you ask? Because I wanted to hear you say it. Ethan looked down. For once, he couldn't hide behind silence. I do. Emily smiled. How much? He looked at her. A lot. Her heart beat faster. She reached across the table. Her fingers touched his. Neither moved. The diner suddenly seemed very quiet. Ethan looked at her hand, then at her eyes. I've been trying not to make this complicated. Emily smiled. Maybe it doesn't have to be. They finished dinner. Neither talked much afterward. Outside, Ethan walked her to her car. Emily opened the door, then turned around. Tomorrow. Ethan smiled. Tomorrow. She drove away. Emily looked at herself in the rearview mirror. She was smiling. For the first time, she wasn't wondering whether Ethan liked her. She knew. The question was no longer whether they liked each other. The question was what they were going to do about it. And Ethan was already planning to find out. The next morning, Ethan stood outside Emily's house with 2 coffees in his hands. He had rehearsed what he wanted to say, at least 10 times. Then the front door opened. Emily looked surprised. Ethan, hey. He held out a coffee. Your favorite. She smiled. You remembered. I remember a lot about you. Emily looked at him. What are you doing here? Ethan took a breath. I need to ask you something. Okay. He looked nervous. Would you want to go out with me? Emily smiled. We already go out. You know what I mean. She stepped closer. You're asking me on a real date? Yes. Why now? Ethan looked at her. Because I don't want to pretend anymore. Emily's smile softened. Pretend what? That I don't like you. She looked down, then back at him. I don't want to pretend either. Ethan smiled. So, is that a yes? Yes. He laughed quietly. Okay. Emily laughed. You look relieved. I am. Do you even have a plan? Ethan hesitated. No, she laughed harder. You asked me out without a plan? I was nervous. That might be the most honest thing you've said. They walked toward his car. Emily held the coffee he had brought her. Ethan opened the passenger door. She stopped before getting in. Ethan, yeah. I'm glad you asked. He smiled. Me too. She got inside. Ethan closed the door. Then he walked around to the driver's side. For the first time, they weren't just two people meeting for coffee. They were going on a date. They didn't know where this would lead. They didn't know that one day they would stand in a wedding ceremony. They didn't know they would have children. They didn't know there would be arguments, silence, separation, and eventually divorce. They didn't know that decades later, they would sit across from each other again and remember this exact beginning. All they knew was that they were young. They liked each other, and they wanted another day together. Ethan started the car. Emily smiled. Where are we going? He looked at her. Somewhere we'll remember. Neither of them knew how true those words would become. Because this was only the beginning.